Now let's talk about what CLAUDE.md actually is and why it matters for your project. Okay, so CLAUDE.md is a markdown file at the root of your project, sitting in your root folder. Claude Code will read that file automatically whenever you start a conversation without any configuration needed. If the file exists, it gets loaded, and it becomes your standing instructions for your coding agent. Every prompt you write after that CLAUDE.md file basically builds on the context of that file. If you're building your own CLAUDE.md file, what should go in it? One thing to start with is a one-liner about the project, what it does, what platform it's on. Then you can add the build and deploy commands that we talked about, because your coding agent will need to know how to run things. For an SDK project, that's the Now SDK build and Now SDK deploy commands, and any rules specific to your code base, like naming conventions, patterns to follow, things to avoid. So like an example would be project name, one sentence about the app, the build command, the deploy command, and a note that says read the PRD markdown for the full app spec. That's 5 lines, and it's already better than starting with nothing every time you start a conversation with your coding agent. To make it even more powerful, you can reference other files from CLAUDE.md, like I just pointed out. Point it to your product requirement document, point it to your architecture documents, or a style guide for your code. You don't have to cram everything into one file, basically. Let CLAUDE.md be your entry point and let everything else branch from that. Or another route you could do is running the /init command in Claude Code, and that'll generate a basic CLAUDE.md file for your project. It's a good starting point, usually not the finished version, but as your app keeps growing, keep updating it. New tables, you can add them. New conventions your agent should follow, add those too. The better your CLAUDE.md file, the less you have to repeat yourself in your prompts. And in fact, you can even run /init in the future to have it update itself. The one big caveat that I must say though is don't make this file too long. Claude Code reads the whole thing every conversation. If your CLAUDE.md file is like 1,000 lines, that's a lot of context loaded before you ask even a single question. So keep the file itself concise and link out to detailed docs when needed. Yeah, but there's also a hierarchy inside of these files. So you can have a CLAUDE.md file at the project root, one in a parent directory, one in your home directory. They all get loaded, and the more specific one usually wins. But for most projects, and especially if this is your first time learning, one CLAUDE.md file in the root folder is probably plenty. Yeah, okay, thanks. I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.